When I meet an American, I'm far more likely to be asked what I studied than an Australian. We don't ask that question. We rarely ever ask what someone studied unless it's relevant to the conversation directly.
So if you're like a big travel person, if you like seeing the world, you don't want somebody who just really wants to be in town with their family. If you don't have those things in common, at some point it's going to start to fracture things.
Women believe that 80% of men were below average in looks. Well, what's interesting is that disparity disappears when women see men in motion in real life.
Like the first indicator that a woman is generally looking for is her safety. And you have to be able to cue like, hey, I'm a whole person. Your no doesn't define me. Your yes doesn't define me. But your yes could be a good time. If dating apps make rejection feel harsher, how do we move towards making rejection feel like practice instead of failure? How do we move through outdated ideas around dating so that we can start showing up with presence and purpose instead of pressure? If you're curious about the answer to those questions, you're in the right place. My name's Tim Winnecke. This is American Masculinity. And in our 21st episode, we've got Damien Diecke coming on from School of Attraction. We're so lucky to have him. Damien's got 17 years of helping guys date with some intention and integrity, and instead of doing any kind of pickup artist BS. I was so happy to connect with him, and I learned so much in this episode, and I think you will too. In addition to that, I'm going to be going on his podcast to talk about broader scope masculinity and how that's impacting the dating world. And we're going to drop these on the same week. I'm really excited to do this shared drop with him. I feel like our missions are incredibly in alignment, and I'm so happy to support his work in helping guys find the love that they're looking for in their world. I hope this episode helps you do the same. While you're listening, think of ways that you might put yourself out there a little bit more, ways that you might be willing to fail a little bit to get better at connecting so that you can build a life and partnerships that you want. We'll talk about it at the end of the episode. Let's get started. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. I've really been looking forward to this.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you want to tell folks a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm Damien Diecke. I got into dating coaching about 17 years ago now. That I started a company called School of Attraction. But the reason I started it was because originally I was very heavily involved in men's work, which is a style of, I guess, developing the masculine part of yourself as a man and how you relate to the world as a man. And it was really interesting because I saw a lot of, you've heard of the pickup artist thing? That's like, was popular back then. That was everywhere, the pickup artist thing. And a lot of my friends were getting involved in it. And I saw a big disconnect between the self-development work I was doing within the men's work and the kind of advice that was being given to men, typically in the dating sphere. And I realized that there was a better way to go to coach men that was better for their mental health and better for, I guess, just overall, not just getting laid, but having meaningful relationships, whatever those relationships were. And that was kind of the inspiration. So I started School of Attraction as a dating coach, and as the years, decades, Jesus, as the time went on.
It's been a minute now. Yeah.
As time went on, I realized I really wanted to start running men's work events myself. I think as I became older and more mature as a man myself, I felt like I could hold that space. So I also run men's work events out in the mountains in New South Wales, Sydney, New South Wales as well.
Oh man, that's great. I missed that in your background.
Yeah.
That you do that stuff. That's awesome. And I think it ties so well into the dating stuff, right? Like I hate how operationalized a lot of the dating coaching gets. And I'm a big skills guy. Like we need some operational stuff to get through anxieties, to touch on it. But like the goals have to be framed out in like who you want to be as a person, as opposed to what you want to get from a person.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. It's a frustrating thing as a coach. In both areas, I can clearly see that the majority of the men who come to me, and this probably won't surprise you, but I'd say 80-90% of them, they would do far better to do the men's work first, the self-development of themselves as a man, before they really get stuck into the dating work. But everyone wants to jump into the dating work first because I think most people think, hey, I'm a nice enough guy, I'm social enough, I just need to have the courage to get in and start talking and everything will kind of come together. And sometimes it does, but a lot of the time, it's a more frustrating journey than it needs to be, and they're not meeting the kinds of women they want to meet because they haven't got themselves, as you kind of said, figured out 100% yet.
Yeah, I think that, like it was like our conversation in the first time we met, where it's that passing of responsibility for social grounding and emotional skill to women. And you're not going to get the woman you want who's willing to do that for you in most cases.
No.
And like what I like about having good coaches in the community is they tend to be back and forth referrals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like I work with a lot of business coaches. I have one dating coach out here, but to be honest, I like doing it enough that I just usually do it when a guy comes in. And we go back and forth, right? Like at a certain point, my ability to bring out your values, who you want to be, I can't give you business advice. You know, no one wants to take financial advice from a counselor. That's not a smart move. And so I like when these things overlap. And I imagine for you that changing gears, going back and forth between the men's work and the dating work, really gives you the broad scope of what's happening.
Yeah, I think it does. It's an interesting thing because at times it can be quite frustrating, because what you want to do is you want to lean into advice from one area and provide it here, and they don't work. There's too much backstory. So, you know, for example, if I've got a man who, let's say, is in the habit of trying to, you know, he wants to please women. That's his mental space. He's not very good at looking after his own wants and needs. That's a very big topic. I mean, you can just bluntly say, this is what you're doing, but the change is deep. The change is complicated, and the change takes a long time. And so yes, I think I have a very broad overview of what's happening, but that often means when someone asks me a question, what I almost always need to say is, all right, this is the short answer, but the real answer is really, really, really long, you know. It's often with journalists. Journalists will often say, hey, we're going to do a fun short segment about dating and how men can improve their self-esteem. You're like, how many hours have you got? This is a topic. You know?
Yeah, this is not a 2-minute thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the key to mastering anything, is it always feels like that. Like I've got a friend who's now at state competition level for pickleball. Are you familiar with that as a sport?
Yeah, vaguely.
It's really big in Colorado. And trying to talk to him about it now is just past me. Right? Like I play, but I don't play like him. And so it's just the hours of complexity. And I think that's the beauty of expertise, and why, I don't know, why I like the podcast so much, is getting people on that have the complicated answers has been really, really wonderful. Well, I think it's worth noting that your work is in Australia, right? But you've been doing it for quite a while. And there's a lot of cultural context that cross over.
Yes,
right?
A lot.
Where do you think the differences are? Like, what's the kind of differences in that what you hear about in the dating world between the two?
Yeah, so it is interesting because I have clients from a lot of countries, and I go to different countries and coach as well a few times every year. And the first thing I've got to say is it's by far more similar than it is different. Unless you're talking about wildly different cultures, like if I were to go to India or if I were to go to Pakistan, or we got wildly different dating cultures. Okay, but Western countries, it's so similar. You do have differences. So in the United States, for example, there's a far stronger emphasis on education than in Australia.
So people are more likely to date across educational lines?
Yes, I noticed that. I guess there's a few reasons for it. I think it's more critical the way the United States is set up. My understanding is it can be hard to get a lot of jobs if you don't have a university education, even if that education doesn't pertain to the job.
Yeah, there's been this story around, you know, people want to date in their class, and there isn't the respect for the trades that there should be. And so even though right now electricians and plumbers are much more stable, making a lot more money than programmers right now, people with degrees will still want people with degrees over people with a stable career.
Yeah. And I notice it's just a bigger deal. When I meet an American, I'm far more likely to be asked what I studied than an Australian. We don't ask that question. We rarely ever ask what someone studied unless it's relevant to the conversation directly. We may ask what they do, of course, but not what they studied. So that's a big one. And I do notice it in dating that just women are more sensitive to it than here. It's not the be all and end all like everyone says, but it is still more obvious, especially places like New York,
box.
Where it's huge.
Yeah. I think like Denver's a little bit better than other places because we've got a lot of tech. And so there's a lot of just IT guys who didn't do school. Yeah. Like old school guys that just banged on the internet until money came out. And I think that helps. Plus the bonding out here is in the outdoors, right? Like everybody in Denver is paying for an incredibly high cost of living to be near the Rocky Mountains. And so, you know, whether you're an accountant or a plumber, you're both still skiing on Saturday.
Well, see, and that's the interesting thing. And I can only talk anecdotally about myself and a couple of guys who I know well, who have traveled, and I've never felt so. I'm a university dropout. I did 3 years of engineering, left with an intention to go back, and never did. I've never felt held back in dating or otherwise by my lack of education. I constantly learning. So you were not going to meet
the incomplete degree.
Yes,
I guess is the way to put it.
You're not going to meet me and think that there's a lack of education, and I've noticed that seems to be a big one. A bit like for me with dating women, if I'm dating a woman who doesn't really seem to be worldly, like just not just, I don't mean a university education, but an education, is curious,
like been
and
somewhere,
constantly,
seen
is constantly learning and has something to teach me, and a curiosity about the world, and for me is more important than having a degree. But a degree is also a good heuristic for having that kind of a mind, and I think that's
I always like when picking apart a little bit when you're working with a guy and helping him try to find his person, right? Guys are so fixated on the physical. And getting them to see like, hey, you really like to do this. This is a key pillar of your life. It's really important that who you find is at least comfortable with it. So if you're like a big travel person, if you like seeing the world, you don't want somebody who just really wants to be in town with their family. And I don't think there's like a moral failing on either end, but like if you don't have those things in common, at some point it's going to start to fracture things.
Yeah, I think that education, you know what? I think it's not education level. I think everyone just uses that as a heuristic. That's really what I was trying to get at, is I think a lot of it has to do with more how intellectually engaging you are as a human being. Because here I am with a partner who's a university professor with 3 master's degrees and me as a university dropout. There is not a gap between us that anyone's going to pick out.
You sound like you're really intimidated by intelligent women. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But yes, I think that plays a large role. But in Australia, we're a lot more casual with that. We're a country that started as convicts, and so we also have the tall poppy syndrome a little bit, going on. Yeah. And tradies earn a lot of money. If you work at a bar, you're earning $26, $27 an hour just working at a bar. The minimum wage is high. So survivability does not depend in the same way in Australia, and our healthcare is good. So there's all the survivability issues that don't matter in Australia like they do in the States. And so that, of course, feeds its way into the dating landscape.
Yeah. So here, when I'm working with younger guys, I've really got to fight to get them to break away a little bit from the provider role as their primary lever to date.
Yep.
Because the resources are so required to live a good life here. So it sounds like the provider role is safe in Australia because of the social systems, because of the safety net, and just because people are actually paid for what they're doing, which is wonderful. What does that do then? Like, what are one of the key components that people really fixate on their checked boxes there?
Yeah, I mean, it's always money. It's always money.
Still money?
It's the big one.
Okay.
But now it's as well, of course, like body, so gym, all that kind of stuff. The sad thing...
there's good data on body dysmorphia really skyrocketing in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's gotten strong. I mean, guys used to talk about, but the whole kind of looks maxing thing has gone through the roof. And not that there's anything wrong with taking care of yourself, but I think the why is often really critical. If you're trying to be attractive to pick up women, it's not the same as taking care of your body to be healthy and be in good shape for yourself. It's a very different mindset.
Well, and I think it's finally starting to get into the overall groupthink of guys, but like what guys think women want to see is like this massive Dwayne Johnson, like cut up guy. And most of them, that's not what they want. They want a healthy looking person. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so it's nice to see that easing off, but that body dysmorphia is still so huge.
Well, what's interesting, I see it most strongly. It's that body dysmorphia is strongest in the men who are in the lonely end of the spectrum. So the men who aren't having success with women, they've got the strongest body dysmorphia. And I think because right now the way the political spectrum works, the kind of more red pill, highly conservative end of the dating advice market targets those men. And so that's the messages they're receiving. Whereas the guys I know who are doing well, like, okay, one of my coaches still goes to gym, works out. The other one, no. I mean, he's okay. He's not in great shape. It doesn't matter because it's like, I'm going to attract women.
He's happy.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Fine.
He doesn't need the validation. So those are the things I still see men focusing on all the time for themselves.
It bums me out, man. I was really hoping that with the safety net, it would be a little different for
No,
you guys.
no.
And so what about the women? What do they get fixated on?
Probably the same. You know, the women still saying, it's still how they look. But the different, of course, I think what's changed is that now women focus a lot more on their education as part of the dating strategy, which I don't think works that well on the whole, at least in the current climate. So women definitely see that as part of what makes them dateable.
So as in they go to college because they know men are around that are going to be interested, or that a degree will help them date a higher echelon of man?
The second. So it's this they're not getting the degrees only for that reason. I don't want to muddy that waters.
Sure.
But there is a feeling that, hey, I've got this really great job, I've got this really great thing that makes me an amazing catch. And I think there is an element of, and certainly it can make you a good catch to some guys. I don't want to argue that.
Sure.
But I think there is an element of, I'm becoming the man I want to date. There's also an element of that. Like, I guess everyone does that to some degree. We think, well, this is what I want, so other people must want the same thing in return. Well, I'll tell you what has changed, though. Here in Australia, it's far more common for women to offer to pay for a date. And a lot of that stuff is a little bit different. One thing I see a lot in the States is still a strong requirement of a man has to pay, like it's his job. Yeah. That doesn't exist here. It exists here. Oh, it'd be nice if a guy offers to pay. Like, you know, that is still nice. It's appreciated, but it's more of a rule for more women in the States than it is here.
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's interesting to me. You would expect that the kind of conservative lean versus the liberal lean, right? More liberal women who are doing better would be less inclined for that. But what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, it's the same. And so what I coach the guys to do with that is, do not expect or put a power play on paying, offer to. Yeah. Right. And then, you know, some women, it's important to go Dutch, right? Like, they don't want you to get the wrong idea about what you get for dinner. Or some women, it's really important that you show the investment. They spend all this time to get ready, look good for you, and you throw on a t-shirt, you can pay for dinner. But I think a lot of, like, particularly younger guys that are like the young professionals, right? That like 25 to 35-year-old, like, kind of fast mover, they seem to get really uncomfortable with splitting bills. Like, they want to be able to show, like, hey, I can provide. This is a sign for that. Yeah.
Which in Australia can offend some women. Like, I've seen examples of guys go on a date with a woman and she really wants to pay for herself, or it just has symbolic meaning to her to look after herself on the date. And guys will just refuse. And sometimes women here in Australia can get angry about it because the guys are refusing to let her pay. And she's like, no, I get to pay if I want to pay for myself, you know. I've seen it ruin dates.
I can understand why you would be uncomfortable with a woman paying for you. Like, I would be a little uncomfortable. I'd probably, like, if they offered, I would let them, but there'd be a part of me that was uncomfortable. Yeah. But splitting a bill is just, it's equitable. Yeah. Doesn't need to be a thing.
Yeah. I'd say there's been a radical change over the last 10 years, if I could extend that time frame out a little bit. The two obvious are probably not going to surprise you. Online dating has been one that hit dating like a truck. The other one has been post-Me Too, as well as the heavy politicization of our social norms, because everyone's gone left, right really strongly. So the online dating we kind of brushed on briefly, but you have this really weird thing going on with it. Well, it's created a dating dynamic. First of all, almost everyone uses online dating at some point. Australia especially is, I don't know about now, but I know in 2018, Australia had the highest per capita usage of Tinder of any country in the world. So we were very rapid adopters here.
Wow.
And it's still a very high usage, and yet the satisfaction with online dating is an all-time low. Everyone hates it, but everyone uses it. And it creates this interesting dynamic for men. If I think about the average 25-year-old guy, an average 24-year-old guy is happy if he has the opportunity to sleep with a new girl every week. Sleep with 2 women every week, 3 women sometimes. Hell, why not? Perfectly happy to. Plenty of guys would be happy to do that. Not all, but plenty. But the average woman on the whole is not, even a very promiscuous woman is not on average trying to sleep with 3 guys a week. It happens, of course it does. But it's far, far further from the norm than for guys with what they're... This means that when we just talk about sex and sexual satisfaction, getting sexual needs met, a very tiny percentage of men can satisfy the sexual needs of a very large percentage of women. Why am I talking about sex, and why is that critical with online dating? Is because that means that women then end up with a perception of who they can match with, right, within the dating marketplace. So these men show interest in me, right? Let's say, men who would be out of their league, so to speak, from a dating perspective. They just offer more than she does on a balance of things, whatever that more equals. Mm-hmm. But of course, because men they're advantageous,
inclined to be promiscuous.
Yes, they'll take advantage of an opportunity, sexually speaking. Mm-hmm. And so the difficulty is that's who women are consistently matching with. Now, so that leaves men consistently with online dating feeling like no one wants to date me, as an average. Mm-hmm. Most men feel like that. Probably 70% of guys. About half guys just get no matches on online dating. It's horrific.
Well, and if you're under 6 feet, you just lost, what is it, all but 17% of the women on the apps don't even see you.
Now that the apps ask for them.
Like ridiculous.
Now that the apps ask for height. I think that was a very poor move to make. But we can get into that. But that's only made things worse. But on the flip side, women are left feeling like no one wants to be in a relationship with them. So there's a particular type of pain that women feel that I don't think is any better, or it's commensurate with the pain men feel, but they're feeling like I'm not worth dating. And every man in the world just wants to have sex with me and then disappear. That's the basic.
Because that's the men they're exposed to.
Because that's the men they're exposed to.
Well, and what I find is the problem with the dating app from a mental health and connection standpoint is either it's a huge hit to your self-confidence because this app is now a barrier that plays you like it's an access point. It gamifies this thing and tells you it can do a thing that it will not do for you for most guys. And then the guys that are filling that need, those guys that are more than happy to go on 6 dates a week and sleep with however many women a week, they become so jaded and out of touch with the physicality of connection.
Yes.
Sex becomes so commodified that it takes me sometimes months with those guys to get them to accept that the way they're showing up to date is why they can't find real relationships. Yes.
And I think there's a real problem. I'm not sure if you do this in your work, but it's something that I believe strongly from my men's work background, is that men are never taught how to really enjoy sex. What I mean by that is men are kind of taught sex as a form of masturbation. But when you really I'm not talking about you have to be in a relationship. This can still be casual. But when you really connect with and like that person and have this really amazing little moment with them and connect and you're kind of on the same wavelength, the intimacy, the how good that whole experience can be, physically, emotionally, how much you pull out of that goes up dramatically. And men are not taught that. So men are having bad sex. They just don't know it. They're having poor experiences. And I think that leads into exactly what you were talking about.
Especially with those top performers, right? Because those guys are generally like, they're gym guys. And now for us, I don't know what the porn looks like where you are, but for us, it's mostly made in California and it's mostly made by people that look unnatural.
Yeah.
Right? Really big in really strange ways. And then porn is cut to the exciting bits for guys as opposed to the actual fun bits, which is everything leading up to that. And so and guys don't talk about it. Like here to this day, like we were founded by a bunch of like uptight Protestants and Germans, right? So like we don't talk about much like we should. I remember my family was very open about sex, so I could talk about it early, and I think it's part of why I did so well in college. But I remember being in the military, and these guys we were in, my favorite one was when I was stationed in England, and these are guys that are paid to work out. Okay, they look decent, they've got an accent, they can do very well if they want to. They would come in and they would brag like guys do. Oh man, what happened this weekend? Oh yeah, man, I met this girl and I banged her. And I remember the first time I asked, like, well, was she any good? Did you have fun? And everybody just stopped and got incredibly awkward and no one knew what to say. And it's because the exposure that we get, like by not talking about these things, by not teaching the fun and breadth of what sex can and should be, we're really setting these guys up for failure because they're doing everything they're seeing. They're doing where they're getting the feedback, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the scary thing is sex becomes another promise that doesn't get delivered on. And I see this, and you must see it with sex addiction and things like that as well, where it becomes maybe the next girl will like fill the gap, the need. I'm not sure what I'm feeling, but I'm trying to fill something here. Maybe the next girl will fill it. And it becomes this. And I saw that when I first got involved, when I told you that like the pickup artist community was a whole thing, and I saw that strongly with men.
Repeatedly.
They were having a lot of sex, and they were happy they were having sex, but they weren't really. It's hard to explain. Like, they weren't getting at it what they needed to. They needed it. There was this hunt for something different they couldn't quite understand or fulfill.
The theme I generally see with that is the validation.
Yeah.
That worthiness. There's a lack of connection. There's something in them that knows they're not connecting.
Yeah.
And by every metric that they can count, they should be a catch. And their numbers prove that they are. But then the connection and action points blow that up. And then on the other end of things, like, I'm seeing more and more guys hit 25 without ever having been on a date. And by the time guys hit 25, if they haven't been on a date, they're so afraid because they're behind, right? Most women have had sex by the time they're 25. There's not a lot of women who haven't, because there's plenty of guys to fill that need, right? Like we were talking about before. And so it's interesting having the conversation on both ends of this, because it really does tend to be polar, I find. Like the guys that are winning feel like they're losing. The guys that are losing feel like they can't win. Yeah. And there's a hard divide there. And they're both learning the wrong lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. They're suffering. And I see that play out with my clients. I was having a chat with my coaches last week. It was our monthly chat. And we all agreed that we're noticing a strong trend with the guys coming to us are struggling more than ever before. Like, they're in a worse place than they were 15 years ago. Noticeably, the young guys. It's a very real thing. They're more disconnected. They have less social experience in general. They're less able to handle, like, everyone is very rejection aware. They're very, very, very sensitive to rejection. They're very sensitive to social friction. It's a big thing, and it's growing, and it invades everything. It's why does ghosting exist? Because everyone's trying to avoid social friction. Online dating is a way to further subvert social friction, because you get to stand behind a screen, you get to hide.
Well, and they get to hide in an environment they feel competent with. Like the young guys, they will tell me about how their social life is online. They will say, like, I've got friends that I play these games with. I'm in these Discords. I'm on these platforms, and that's where I connect. I don't need to leave the house, which they still do. But then they go into this dating app, in this place that they have skill. They know they have skill, and they know they can connect. And all of a sudden, they can't here using this tool that they've connected into these other places. And the frustration is astounding.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I mean, if someone comes, because I teach online dating as a skill, as well as, just regular cold approaching, things like this. The problem is...
Well, you kind of have to, right? Everybody uses it so much, you can't get away from it. Yeah.
But the difficulty is, if you come to me and you say, Damien, I really want to get good at online dating. I want to become awesome at it. I want to get into that top 20%. Okay. As long as you're sort of average, just above average to up, I can get you there. But what I'm teaching you is not dating skills. I'm teaching you marketing. I'm teaching you how to play a system, how to game a system. You're not learning social skills, really. You're not learning much at all about women or about yourself as a man. You're learning, it's like myself when I run a lot of Facebook ads. That's what I'm teaching you, but the dating version. How do we make that product clickable? How do we get the highest click-through rate? And how do we improve your conversions? That's what it's all about.
It's 100% accurate.
And so when you're learning that, you're not learning what you really need to learn when it comes to dating.
Yeah, what I try to get the guys to understand is all the apps can do is get you an interesting 15 minutes. That's it. They can get you in front of somebody sometimes.
Yeah.
But there is no guarantee for chemistry. There is no guarantee for honesty in what they presented when they were trying to market themselves as well. And what I find is if I can get that frame really locked in for the guys, they're a lot less bitter about bad dates because it's still a good story. And I think the description that you made about making it like understood, this is about marketing, that this is an app. You are not learning about connection. You are not learning about yourself here. You are learning how to operate a machine.
The last thing about online dating that I don't think people realize, because I never hear it talked about. I think a lot of people have heard, there was an old study 10 years ago. OkCupid did it, where it showed that 80% of women believed that 80% of men were below average in looks. And it became this whole thing. But what's fascinating, or what's interesting, is that disparity disappears when women see men in motion, in real life. moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Women become much more, 50% of men are below average. This becomes the same as men. And people don't realize that. People don't realize that women are trying to assess personality along with looks, along with... Men can generally look at a woman and say, that woman, she is a pain in the ass. I do not like her at all. Terrible personality, but damn, she's hot. Damn. The different vectors of that human being, the unrelated, right? But for a woman, if a guy is perceived as being a bit sleazy or a bit creepy, and he's attractive, no, it ruins it. If he's an asshole to people, it ruins it for most women. He's not attractive. He's ugly. He's a horrible human being. And so that's part of the thing, is that they need to see that. And seeing a guy in motion, suddenly you see personality and all the other bits and pieces that become a whole human. A photo is usually not good at displaying a whole human.
Well, and it goes back to that marketing discussion, right? Like the apps are putting in front of you where your attention stays. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you find attractive is what's going to be in front of you, which is going to skew what you think is in the world. Because every night you get to look through a dozen or so people that you generally find attractive. The app gets to know you pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I think about some of the things that make me sick that I have to tell guys to change their first name. Change your first name on the app and you can improve your ranking, especially if you have a non-Western name. And it makes me sick that that's advice I have to give. It's awful. Mm-hmm. If you're black, and in the States especially, not so much in Australia, but in the States, if you're black, you have to change that first photo so you're dressed like a typical white American. You just happen to have black skin. It disgusts me that can be some of the advice I need to give, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are misrepresenting, you are offending your culture, you are doing all these things, but you have to play a game, and it makes everybody more shallow in the way they think about dating relationships. I always say, if I could make online dating disappear with the push of a button, straight away.
I can't get all the guys off the apps.
No,
it's just too addictive. It's too gamified. But the ones that I do get off the apps, even if it's to like go to the paid, like speed dating stuff, or Colorado is great. Everybody wants to get out into the mountains. There's all these meetups to go hike or whatever. All of a sudden, they're fine.
Yeah.
Women talk to them. And these are guys that are like, no woman will ever talk to me because I sent out 1,000 swipes and got back one ghost.
Well, that's the thing I'm always telling men is it's interesting. Despite what a lot of men feel, we can talk about that in a bit because I'd like to talk about it, but despite how men feel, cold approach, even cold approaching in a bar, is no harder today than it was 17 years ago. It hasn't changed. It hasn't become more difficult. If anything, it's slightly easier because fewer men are doing it now, and women are more frustrated with their dating lives than ever before. So an alternate way to meet men has changed. And a lot of guys don't realize that. And that's what I'm seeing, I think, for guys now. The landscape, it feels a lot harder, even outside of online dating, often because how men are being raised is making the idea of dating harder than ever before. If that makes sense. It's not the dating that's harder.
Yeah, we haven't balanced out what dating culture looks like post Me Too. No. Like we haven't figured out how a bad approach that is creepy is not an assault and shouldn't be treated as such. And I think that's starting to shift. I think I'm certainly seeing it in the older populations. Like folks over 30 are much more forgiving. They're just annoyed as opposed to like appalled and making reports and like putting a post up on blasting this guy because he had a creepy approach. And I think the big thing that helps guys with the approach is helping them understand the environment for an approach versus an environment not for an approach. That goes against some of the dating coaches that I've talked to where they're like always look for an
I think
opportunity
that's
to
dangerous.
make a connection.
I think that's,
Me too, right? Like if you're at the gym and she's got her headphones in, no, do not. Like every cue that you're getting from her says she is there to work out.
There's some serious pushback on that idea too. People are like, oh, you're just a simp. It's like, no, like pick your battles, pick your moments, approach women, but do it mindfully. But there's such pushback to that.
And do it where it's culturally appropriate, right? If you're at the bar, if you're at a university thing, if you're at a party, there's an expectation when social fluidity is happening that people will flirt and find somebody. But just out into the world, that's not where it happens. And it's never happened out in the world often.
I've got a theory that there's a very elegant way to reduce a lot of unwanted approaches from men, which is for women to go back to giving indicators of interest. I mean, it used to be the norm. It was the culturally normal thing to do. Women were quite aggressive in the dating strategies in a passive way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't happen, this is the thing I often have to tell my female clients, is that because men have to guess, we have no indicator if a woman's interested or not. We have to talk to all the women around. You know, we can't just go, oh, she probably likes me. No, we have no way to know. We just have to go and give it a whirl. There's a roll of a dice every time because there's no indicators of interest. And I think that's where a lot of the unwanted attention comes from. You get the thing of guys acting like every woman likes him or misinterpreting every signal as though a woman likes him. The problem is we have to. It's an adaptive strategy to a world in which women don't let men know when they like them or when they're interested or when they want them to come over. And I think that this is one of those ways that I think right now there's an unfair pressure put on men to be the agents of change with most things. And I'm not trying to argue there aren't things that men as an average need to change and fix about the way that we treat women. I don't want to pretend that. There's plenty to change. But I think there are a lot of areas where all the responsibility is placed on men instead of looking at how can we reduce this overall, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, that polar discussion of how men approach the problem of not knowing, I think summarizes it perfectly, right? And that goes into the red pilling versus what I see with my liberal guys, right? Liberal guys get small, conservative guys get big, and neither are correct.
Yeah.
Right? The guys that are like, everyone wants me, look at me, I'm going to talk to all of them like this, that goes badly, right? That's an HR complaint waiting to happen. And the guys that make themselves so small, they never get to have that. They never get to get in front of somebody. And I think there are things that women could do, but I think it's mostly what I do with the guys is teach them empathy. Like, you might not know whether she's sexually interested in you, but you can tell whether she's annoyed at the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you can take a chance if she's interested in the conversation. And if you can take no gracefully, you will eventually have success. And that no gracefully is the hard part. Neither end take no gracefully, in my experience. That's a big lift for a lot of guys. Yeah,
and it's an interesting thing. I've had multiple moments in my life where I've handled a no far better than a woman's expected, and as a result, things have turned around. It's not how it's supposed to go. It's not the norm, but it's quite surprising that it happens because most guys aren't good at it. I learned to be like, okay, cool, you're not interested in me, or okay, cool, you don't want to have sex with me tonight. Back in my house after we've been making out. Okay, cool. And the fact that I'm not fazed by it, I'm not upset, I'm not annoyed, everything goes back to normal, I think even sometimes has this effect of like, wait, what? Why doesn't he care? Why is this not a problem?
Well, and from the women, this was a common strategy for me, right? Like, I'd go to a party and the no, it didn't usually turn around like that because it was a party setting.
Sure.
But it meant my next approach was more successful, right? Because they felt safe. Like, the first indicator that a woman is generally looking for is her safety.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to cue, like, hey, like, I'm a whole person. Your no doesn't define me. Your yes doesn't define me. But your yes could be a good time.
Yeah.
We could really enjoy each other. And that's hard because the guys that are pushing that, like, everybody wants me, since they tie so much of their personhood and their confidence to it, a no is damaging. And for the guys that it takes so much for them to get up the courage to go and approach and ask, the no is devastating because it's just too much.
Yeah.
Like, I came on yours and talked about what the dating strategies I give the guys are. What are kind of the 2 or 3 that help guys approach, that like get them kind of inoculated to that rejection and get them prepped for the yes?
Yeah. So one of the biggest mindsets that I really work hard to give the guys is you're focused on entertaining yourself first and foremost. So forget trying to get her to like you, because that's what guys are so focused on. What can I get her to like me? The very first thing is, can I have fun here? And am I good at entertaining myself? There's such a focus on trying to entertain her. But if I entertain me, if I tell jokes that make me laugh, if I tease her in a way that make me chuckle, right? Not everyone's woman's going to love it, of course, because everyone has a different sense of humor and a difference. But man, the women who like it, the women who chuckle with me, right? Okay, all right, we're in, right? Like, this is good.
Yeah,
I'm entertaining
we've
me.
got a conversation.
Yeah, and you're along for the ride. This is cool. I like this. This is fun. And so that's number one. Can I entertain myself? Because yes, I think men often the other thing I see is men looking to their friends to be the entertainers or to get the energy up. You have to be able to do it for yourself. That's the big one. That's your thing. Or they're looking for a woman to give them the energy. It's like, hey, how's your night going? I thought I'd come and say hello. They're hoping the girls will like, oh, hey, oh, it's great to see you. They're hoping she brings the energy. You're doing it for you. You're not doing it for her. You're doing it for you. Because if you do that, you can have a fun night out and not get a single number because you're having fun in the interactions. But the second thing is, if you're not having fun, if you can't have fun with her, that's your cue to leave no matter how hot she is.
Huge red flag.
It's massive. And for guys, I really have to say, women can smell when you're willing to walk away. They really can. Like most men, when they're talking to a woman, you know when she's trying to suss you out. Like, do I like you? Do I want to keep talking to you? You can feel that. She has to feel that from you too. Not because you're playing a game, not because you're being manipulative, but because really, you don't want to be with someone that's not fun to talk to and be around. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot more to a relationship than fun, but really that's my big thing is, can the initial contact, because mostly you're in a fun environment. You're generally not meeting women at a funeral. You're not generally not meeting women, someone serious, like, I don't know, at the road traffic authority. No, you're meeting us somewhere where people are there to enjoy themselves. And so that can be the first point of contact. And I think that's where most men fail, is that A, they don't know how to entertain themselves. They do not. They don't know what they find fun and funny. And then secondly, they're not willing to walk away, especially when she's attractive. Everything falls apart. And so when you ask me what's the big one, that's the big one.
It opens the door.
Yeah.
Like immediately, like we were talking about. If there's conversation, there's chance.
Yeah.
And that's where it all happens. And the thing I find paired with that so often is getting guys to step out of primarily masculine hobbies. If everything you go out to do has only guys there, you're setting yourself up for failure. And it's not that you can't go enjoy these things, man. Like I love video games. I like going and watching my buddies with their drones do stupid things with the drones. That's all awesome. But that's not where I'm going to meet a lady.
Yeah.
Right. And if there is a gal there, she's either going to get really annoyed because a lot of the guys treat her badly, or the ones that don't are immediately obsessed. And there's a lot of competition for this one person who's having fun.
Yeah.
As opposed to if I go skiing and I get on the shared lift ride to go up the hill, everybody's talking about what they're going to be doing on the runs. And I can laugh with them about what a bad skier I am. I don't even have to be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. I feel like a lot of guys, when it comes to that, I don't want to sound mean, but they hide behind but I'm an introvert banner. Mm-hmm. I think most men are not as introverted as they think they are. They may be introverts, but not as extremely so as their lifestyle dictates. I think we talked about this briefly last time as well. Mm-hmm. You know, I think 90% of your viewers, my viewers, I'm sure they're similar demographic. I'd say 90% of them should be out doing something social once or twice a week.
Yeah, and I think COVID really exacerbated that problem.
It also created bad habits for the younger generation, you know, because they never built the habit of being social every week.
Mm-mm. No, and they're like, I'm on a Discord with my friends all the time. Yeah. No, man, like that's not, you can't get a feel. You can't feel the attraction. You can't feel the pull. You can't learn to read the room. I think one of the biggest things that really messed us up is this idea of extroversion and introversion being a binary as opposed to a spectrum. Like no one healthy is all extroverted and no one healthy is all introverted. It's ridiculous. You have needs and you might lean one way or the other, but yeah, we've got to get out of the house.
Yeah.
We've got to get out in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when it comes to the men's development, that is one of the big ones too. You've got to have a life you enjoy. It's the entertaining yourself. You've got to have a life that means something to you. Like if you dig the life you have, you don't have to be rich. But if you dig the life you have, if you get it, if you're like, I like my life. I do things I enjoy. It's kind of fun. My job, it's okay. But you are far more magnetic to women you're going to talk to than the guys like, I don't do much. Mm-hmm. You know, I just sit home and watch TV. You're not inspiring yourself, let alone someone else. And I know we talked about that last time, but it feeds into this, this self-development side.
One of the things I wanted to touch on with you is the kind of anxious symptoms that block dating and the depressive symptoms that block dating. Mm-hmm. And I think depression is so insidious because it convinces you feeling low and isolated is normal. I'm just a normal guy on a couch, man, watching TV on Wednesday night. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, we're not built for that.
Yeah.
Isolation is against the Geneva Convention. Like, it's torture.
Yeah.
It's not normal. That feeling in you when you're on the couch all by yourself all the time is not normal. It's just become your normal.
Yeah, I almost think we need a different term for it too, because that form of depression, which is depression, clinically speaking, it's experienced more as a just general malaise that's unclear.
Well, I think that's the trick, right? It's not always clinically depressed. There's a lot of different things that make that feel normal. It's a depressive symptom.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of the indicators, and you don't have to have depression to have it. There's plenty of people that get dissociative depression. There's plenty of people that have post-traumatic ties to depression. And I think most of the people that went through the pandemic have a trauma response associated with that feeling right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And but because it's normal, they think that's the normal way to feel. I 100%. I mean, I do it to myself to some degree as well. I have to force myself to get out and be more social. I work from home and all those things. So it makes it easier for me to live that life, you know. And then if my drone flying buddies aren't getting out that often, and, you know, a few of my hobbies and other, I have to push myself because I don't feel like it. I don't. I'm going to be honest. I don't feel like it a lot of the time.
Feel better after.
Yeah.
You didn't want to go.
So much better.
It's like the gym.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go. Feel better afterwards.
100%.
What are you doing to help guys kind of inoculate themselves to that rejection response? How are you helping them fight that instinct of, this will be the worst thing ever if she says no?
Yeah. One of the things I find helps a lot is still monkey see, monkey do. There is a non-normalization for most people. They're not seeing men talk to women, and it's all okay. I think that when it comes to my industry, dating coaching specifically, that is underappreciated, how powerful just regularly seeing other men talk to women and get rejected sometimes. And the rejection isn't brutal. It's not bad. It's okay. So seeing other men approach women and walk away and be okay is very powerful. It really, I see that as massive. Like, you know, in Sydney, I have a community built where the guys, like not even clients, just guys who want to can go out and meet other guys to talk to women with. That alone helps a lot of guys because it just normalizes it. And I think normalization is a big part of it. You know, once they get used to that, even the idea, another thing that helps men a lot more than it sounds on the surface like it should help, is I get men to just start asking women on the street, like once or twice a day, for directions somewhere. Don't hit on her.
Just an approach question.
Don't flirt with her. But normalizing the act of approaching a woman that you haven't spoken to before and talking does wonders when you actually go to do a real approach another day.
Yeah. Yeah, for the guys that are really, really anxious, the advice is always kind of a similar move of, you need to not talk to women for sex for a while. You need to learn how to talk to women around things you're interested in. And you need to develop a friendship, at least one friendship with a woman that is platonic before you even begin to try to date. Because you're going to learn so much in that one friendship, and you're going to start to feel normal talking to someone that you might have an opportunity to be attracted to.
Yeah.
I think people don't normalize the fact that male-female friendships can have attraction and still be friendships. Even if it's named like, oh, we're not going to do that. But yeah, of course you're gorgeous. Of course you're handsome. But yeah, that's not our thing. And just naming it makes you like, oh, that's a thing I can feel. I can feel that pull. Okay. So that's what it feels like. But I think if you're that really, really anxious guy, you've got to start small, man. Just make it actionable, small bites of movement towards the thing and person.
The first step is not approaching a woman to pick her up. It for a lot of guys, that's not the first step. It's viewed that way, you know. It's like, oh, how am I going to build up that courage? Well, you don't need to yet. Do other things.
Yeah, I think it works for some guys, like the pull the Band-Aid off exposure stuff. But I think it can be really destructive.
It can be traumatic.
I think if it goes badly.
I've seen that with clients. I try to vet the clients always before they start with me. And sometimes they give me answers because they want to be accepted into the program, and so they kind of fudge what they're saying. But I've seen it traumatize guys. Like, when I see it, I pull them back and we focus on something else instead. But I see it starts to initiate trauma for them because it's too much. It's not where they're at.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? Is the typical quick videos and things like that. Like you talked about the news calling you about like, hey, we're looking for quick dating tips, right? It's all about the approach. It's all about what happens when a guy has his feet under him, as opposed to, hey, it's okay to take some time and get your feet under you. In fact, that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is also, yes, you can be quite polished socially, and you can be very fast and adept at having fun, at connecting, at actually getting to know someone. That is a skill you can learn, it's true. But if you're just a guy who's in a really good place in his life and just generally feels good about himself, has a healthy self-esteem, feels entitled to talk to someone, like not entitled to have a like him, but just, I deserve to talk to a woman, feels entitled in that way.
I'm interesting.
That guy will already, without any other social skills, when you're in that place, you will have women notice you. You know, like, okay, it's great to have the skills on top, but with that alone, that's. But if you don't have that and you just learn the skills, you can still fail miserably.
It is a rare thing, but I do get the social guy who hasn't figured out cues.
Oh, I do too, and it's so quick.
Like I talk to everybody. It's fine, and I'm like, no, man, like you. 3 of those women that you just told me about probably would have been interested in you if you'd have just noticed.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I get that too. It's very frustrating sometimes. But yes.
Well, and it's maddening for the other guys when they hear about it, right? They're like, but he's already good at that. Oh, man. Well, I think a lot of people are going to really like this, and hopefully it's going to help guys figure out some things. And if they want more dating tips, you've got a podcast that you regularly speak to various aspects on. Yes?
Absolutely.
All right, good. So we're gonna put that out so that they can get to you. But I'm really excited to do this with you, man, because I really enjoyed our first conversation. I'm really excited to get to know you a bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of these answers also, I mean, a guy like you, right? You literally teach people how to be charming. I imagine you're a pretty charming guy out in the world. And so naming some of these things is probably going to help guys realize that even the charming guy isn't always who he looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not always charming. No.
Neither am I.
Definitely not.
Tragically.
Just ask my fiance. Not always charming.
Thank God she's, you got to have people around you that'll be like, that's not how to do that.
Yeah.
So the first question around it is, what's a truth about masculinity that you learned before you were 12 that's remained true today?
I'm going to give it an odd answer, and I need to think it through before I commit to it, but it's what came to mind. I was always told by my mum, think about how a prince ought to behave. A knight or a prince. How ought he to behave? And if you stick to that, you'll rarely get into trouble. And I think largely that's true. Because a knight is not weak. A knight is not a pushover. But a knight is supposed to have empathy for other people, and especially for women. And so I think that's still true.
And it brings it inside, right? Like the action, not the prestige. Yes. I think that's where people get that dynamic messed up, is they miss that, no, it's an action. Yeah. It's what you're doing, not how the world is reacting. Yeah. That's a brilliant way to put that to a little boy.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
I love that.
And it still strikes me too, because so many times when I've done something in my life that I'm not proud of, or I'm embarrassed or ashamed of, or let myself down, that always still comes to my mind. Like, that's true. I didn't act as I know a prince or a knight ought to have behaved.
Well, and it just goes with the social cues of our kind of traditional medias, right? Like the hero's journey, the prince's story, the knight's story, what little boys like love in the adventure of it. There's lessons in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm stealing that. Your mother's brilliant. Please tell her I said so.
I shall do.
Well, so I guess then the manhood question often comes back to that question of the knight or the prince for you. What's a time that pursuing that hurt you, where you messed up?
It's interesting you ask, because this has come up. I've seen this with a number of clients suffering in the same way recently, in the last few weeks. So it's kind of top of mind for me. At one point, I was feeling like I was getting very obsessed unhealthily with how do I make sure that I'm masculine enough with women. So this real idea of all the responsibility on me in relationships when talking to women to make her feel like she could be in her feminine and push her into her feminine and sit in my masculine. How do I sit what does the masculine look like? How am I supposed to respond to that? And it was an obsession that I really had for a while. I think now with my partner, looking back on past relationships when I was younger, I really feel that difference now because I've had these guys recently asking me, it's come up in groups and stuff, this question of how do I be more masculine? I'm seeing this girl, she wants me to be more of my masculine. And it just hit me like I've heard this toxic thing. It's not toxic, but for me it was, it really hurt me. And so, yeah, definitely I was now it's a funny thing of I'm not overthinking that. All I'm doing is looking after myself and my needs and being clear about what I want while being empathic towards others. I'm not getting caught up with... I mean, it's important to understand ourselves as men and what it means to be a man. I 100% agree with that, but that hurt me. I got very obsessed with that mindset. And also, all the responsibility is not on me. It's also her responsibility to be able to be in her feminine, to find that space. You know, if she works in a very masculine-dominated field, okay, but it's still her responsibility then to find herself outside of that, just like it is ours as men.
Or to find a man that balances it, right? If she's a more masculine woman, and that's a big part of herself, and she can accept that, she can find a more feminine man, and they can balance each other with that energy. I think the tragedy of it all is this: when we put the binary of expectations up, everybody's cutting off pieces of themselves to fit into it.
Yeah.
It's so validating right now to hear you talk about that, because I was telling you before we got on, I've recently gotten back on the apps and getting back out into the dating world a little bit, right? And one of the things I noticed fairly immediately is every fifth woman, I want a man that's projecting his masculinity so I can lean into my femininity, is like wrote in every fifth profile I go by.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I don't know what that even means for you.
But also, why isn't she already in her feminine? Like, I mean, it's not my job.
And which part? Which part? There's a lot of different parts of masculinity. Which one do you want? Well, I got these. I don't have this one. Is that the one you're looking for? Yeah.
Oh, well, it's interesting because I've been in the process of rebuilding and rebranding the men's work that I do. And now how I am explaining what I do, I'm not teaching men how to be masculine. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is I'm teaching men to have really healthy access to both their vulnerability and their empathy, and their darkness, their wildness, their more dangerous parts, their sexuality. Because if you've got the full dynamic range of the emotions you're meant to feel, rather than being squashed, which is what society tends to do, whatever comes out is what's masculine for you. That's the man you're meant to be. And so that's more how I'm rebranding that now, because it can become this hunt for what masculine is supposed to be. And yes, there are going to be norms that I think aren't bad, but it's this weird ideal that isn't healthy always.
No, and it's the dream of feminism, right? If you talk to a powerful feminist from forever ago that founded this idea of equity, it's the power of choice, which means you can choose traditional roles if that's what you want, if that's where you're leaning, but you can also choose to be something different. My favorite guys I work with, and I say this a lot, so I'm sure the listeners are tired of hearing it, but the Special Forces guy gone stay-at-home dad. That's my favorite. Like, he's done the whole spectrum of things, and now he's found what he gets to choose. And he's bulletproof, right? He's got more masculine status than he knows what to do with, so he can just do whatever the hell he wants, which is play with his kids all day. It's great. The empowerment, I'm wondering, that masculine ideal of that knight and that prince, how much of that vision of masculinity is tied to your expression of it?
Well, funnily enough, not to go full circle, but to go full circle, I mean, to me, because again, it's a representational term that means something different to different people who hear it. But to me, the thing that was always a part of that was they're strong, but they have empathy. Like, that's always what it meant to me. So oddly enough, it tied in perfectly with how I'm really trying to push that now in a strange way, because that's always how I saw it. If I acted in a way that I wasn't happy, it was always because I wasn't being empathy. I didn't have enough empathy for the people I mistreated, or it's because I didn't take care of myself, or I wasn't honest with myself and the darker parts of who I was, or I didn't protect myself and stand up for myself. I mean,
it's so tied. It's really hard to be self-empathetic when you can't be empathetic to others. Yeah, because others are your mirror to find yourself. Absolutely. Well, what a great way to go out, man. I'm so happy we got to meet. I'm so happy you found me, and I'm so proud of the guy you are in the world and how you're helping guys. One of the best parts of doing this podcast is meeting other men making a difference, and I very sincerely believe that you do.
I appreciate that.
And so thank you so much for that and the work you do.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that.
And that's our conversation with Damien. At the beginning of the episode, I asked you to look for ways that you might be willing to fail and put yourself out there. What tools did you hear that's going to help you do that? Leave it in the comments or a message to me so that we can start helping guys figure out what they're going to do and what they're going to try out in the world. Let's normalize the idea that we're going to have to go through some rejection to build up the skills and social needs that we have to connect in the ways that we want to. For the fact check, there really wasn't much off. There was a bit of data that could use some clarification. Damien mentioned a study that said that 80% of pictures were rejected by women. That's from '09 and OkCupid. And that's an accurate data point. However, we've now learned that women still message across the spectrum a lot more than that. I will say the apps are still marketing. Damien is 100% correct and an absolute master at helping people put that marketing for themselves out there if you won't put down the apps. Apps are not the best way to connect. If you can, get out into the world, go meet some people, make some friends, be around women to get comfort with women. And dating is going to go so much better for you than just endlessly scrolling in this cluster that is the dating app world. And don't forget, I'm going to be appearing with Damien on his podcast, School of Attraction, where we talk about masculinity in the dating world. I'm really excited to pair these episodes up to give you all the most tools we can on how to connect in the world in a way that's going to be effective and long-term for you. As always, thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next episode where we talk about betrayal.